Hey everyone, ETT here. I've got my hands on a few different types of insulation testers, all from Megger. Two 5,000 volt Meggers and two 1,000 volt Meggers, and I want to give you my personal opinion on them. Stay tuned. Let's start with the two 1,000 volt Meggers here in the middle. I've got a MIT 400 and an MIT 410/2. Slight difference between the two of them. One being the max range scale of each one. They both go to 1,000 volts. This has the extra 50 and 100 volt steps. But this one, you'll see, will go to 200 gig ohms. Whereas this one here goes to 20. Both get 1,000 volts, slightly different screens. You get the check mark and 1,000 volts, whereas this one you get 1,100 volts, so you can see your voltage there. Aside from those, you have your voltmeter, which you can check AC voltage. And you have the continuity tester. This one has two different ranges, an ohm scale and 1,000 ohm scale. And then you have your setup. Both of these are excellent insulation testers. When comparing them to other models, Megger surpasses the other models. They all appear to do the same thing, but Megger gives you the higher insulation values compared to Fluke. Fluke has a 2 gig ohm max on their most recent insulation testers. If they put anything new out, I don't know that it comes near the 200 gig ohm. These are an everyday carry item. They stay on the truck. For any test technician, this is a 100% must-have on any field service tech's truck. It's used on many different applications, any type of low voltage cables, switch gear, anything 600 volt and under. It can be used on higher class voltage stuff, but it's not for any type of acceptance test. You would typically use it just to see if something is clear. So typically 600 volt and below. A lot of the stuff in our area is 480 volt, 3-phase, 208 volt, 3-phase. Sometimes you come across 240 volt, 2-phase. That's typically residential, and 120. The other two insulation testers here are both 5,000 volt testers. There's a major difference in size between the two of them, but they do the same thing. They apply 5,000 volts DC, and you have a couple different steps between them to do at reduced voltage tests. So if you wanted to use it for a low voltage application, 600 volt below, you still have the option for 1,000 volts. The difference between them, having a handheld 1,000 volt and the larger 5,000 volt, is portability. For me to be able to run through low voltage equipment, 480 to 120, 208 transformers, for example, it's easier to carry around a handheld unit. The larger ones, they aren't difficult to carry around, but they're a little more cumbersome, and you're typically carrying tools. So the larger 5,000 volt Meggers, the difference between these two is this is larger because one, it has the rechargeable battery. This one is all self-included. This one runs off of 8 AA batteries. It says it here, batteries go in here. There is no recharge option for this, which is fine. I think it works just fine as it is. These max range insulation values for each one of these are different. This one goes up to a 10 tera at 5,000 volts, and this one goes to 1,000 gig ohms. This is 10 tera. So there's a big difference with the range. I would like to use this more so on any type of larger equipment, transformers, but this does the job to check to see if there's any type of insulation fault at 5,000 volts. So they're both digital. They both show your voltage. They show an analog scale, and they have different modes. This one has the PI mode, a dielectric absorption rate, insulation resistance at a specific time, which can be programmed in the setup, and then just an insulation burn test that just stays on until you turn it off. This one you have a PI option. Which you can see PI time or just insulation. In the PI, I believe it'll give you the dielectric absorption rate, which is your 1 minute reading divided by your 30-second reading. A PI would be your 10-minute reading divided by your 1 minute reading. So those two values are pretty important when it comes to transformers or even motors. Cables, if you're doing a 10-minute cable test. But these are also, you should have a 5,000 volt insulation tester on your truck as a technician 100% of the time. So these are excellent tools. I like either one of them, of the 5 kV. I like either one of these. This is my everyday carry on my truck, as well as this. Megger has sent me these two to take a look at and get my opinion on. And so far, I really like this. This is the upgraded model to this higher scale, gives you PIs. This one is a great unit to have. It's definitely an excellent unit, but I prefer this one over that one. I prefer not having batteries. These have replaceable batteries. There is no rechargeable option. I typically load the case up, just batteries in them, to change out as needed. There's a few differences between these two. One major difference is the whole outside protective case. This one is not removable. This one here is removable. So this has got the clip and all built in, but it's rubber, so the clip wears out over time. I've put a temporary magnet, I've put a hook, you know, different things to do with it. Whereas this one, the hinge is built into the hard molded plastic. This is a more rubbery. Looks like it'll hold up well. It still protects it, but this one seems a little more durable with the stand. This one tends to fall over just with the whole soft rubber. Both of them, same amount of batteries. This one is underneath this one screw. Here you have 2 screws. This one obviously shows more wear because it gets used quite often. As you can see, the stand's kind of wearing out, which is why I have hooks and magnets on that one. The clips between the two are slightly different. You can get whichever clips. These are probably aftermarket, but the style's different. You have a probe on the end, one, whereas the newer style comes with a more safe design. And if you need the probe, it has the attachment to have a probe. You still have the probe functionality. Whereas this one is a probe and slides the alligator on. Those are the two different styles. And there's tons of aftermarket stuff. But my advice would be to use the cables that come with Megger, as they're typically the silicone 1,000 volt rated cables. If you use different leads with these devices, if they're not the Megger brand or some sort of 1,000 volt or 5,000 volt rated leads, you tend to get a lot of other influences when you're testing equipment. Just you moving your hand close to the leads or having the leads laying on top of each other, you will get lower readings, or it'll cause it to be at less than 1 PI. So it's best to use the leads that come with the equipment. Here you have the same silicone leads, except these are the 5,000 volt model, which are rated at 12 kV. It's stamped on the cables here. You wouldn't want to use 1,000 volt rated leads with a 5,000 volt insulation tester, because you will definitely have outside influences. But other than that, that's a brief overview. If you want to compare these to other models, Megger, their cases, their equipment, you pick this thing up and it weighs about 5-10 pounds, whereas you pick up a AEMC or Fluke or some other brand, and the outside cases are they're not very durable. They are still a hard plastic, but they almost seem cheaper made. The hinges, the clasps, everything's different. This has a metal hinge, whereas AEMC have a plastic hinge. And from what I've seen of those, have been breaking on the job, just nothing on purpose. The meters are still functional, but the quality difference is much more rugged with the Megger. And you are paying a lot of money for equipment in general, so you want your equipment to last. And Megger definitely does a job in quality. So that's why I think I picked Megger over any other brand. The other brands all work similar, but you definitely go for quality with Megger. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope to find some more Megger or any equipment that I can show you, because for people who haven't seen this stuff or are just dabbling into testing, may want to know what other professionals are using. And I've used quite a few different models and brands of equipment, so I'll do my best. But thanks for tuning in.